All right, we are live in five. Few more. There we go. All right, I'm ready. We are at the top of the hour. I am so incredibly excited to have this wonderful person on with us today. Let me turn the music down and let's just put all of our attention and our focus on the one and only Mrs. Sabra Kershaw, who is the Vice President of WesBanco in Ohio. Couple of things about Sabra. She is a personal friend, and she's also like my personal advisor. I really appreciate the insights, the information that I've been able to glean from her through just our ongoing relationship. She certainly is. I mean, we talk about everything from personal finance to business finance. We talk about board development and engagement. And I think earlier this year, we were trying to get her on and we couldn't make it, but now I got her. And my hope is that you all will find that we get, I mean, she's just, now is the time to ask these questions. You know, the one thing that I will say, Sabra, and then I want to take it over to you, is that in addition to being the vice president at WesBanco, you are the president of Powell, the Powell Chamber of Commerce. So congratulations on that. And I know you've been advising a lot of people, boards and leaders, but I guess, you know, I just want to hear, to start off, what should we, you know, since this pandemic, I got you on speed dial. So what should small business owners be thinking about? Let's just hit it, you know, in this pandemic. What are your thoughts?
Okay. Thank you so much, Pam. I really appreciate your kind words. Let's just jump right in. I agree. So with the pandemic and especially being the president of the Powell Chamber, certainly did not expect to be president during a pandemic, right? And I have learned a lot. And what I will say, the businesses that are surviving at this moment are the ones that have the best plan. The ones that are able to just go with the flow, go with the change of what's happening in this world. And just really think outside of the box. So we are constantly getting inundated for, you know, questions about how can the chamber help? How can the city help? My biggest advice right now would be, no matter where you live, is to contact your local city and see what's available. Because in Powell, they are giving loans out to small business owners to help them get through this time. And people may not know that there's money out there that can help them with rent and payroll and things of that nature. So that's my advice right now.
So you're talking about, like you're saying, small business loans. What do you say to people who are like, I don't know if I want a loan. I don't know. Should I just keep looking for grants? Like, what do I do?
Yeah, well, definitely grants. I mean, if you can get a grant, I certainly would suggest you go for that first. But those do take time. So you got to keep that in mind. Do you have enough time to wait for the grant? If not, maybe go ahead and get the loan and pay the loan off with the grant. Receive it. So, but there's so much money coming in for small business owners, grants. You really have to do the research. It requires massive amount of Googling time, but
I was going to say where do I find this money?
So Googling, of course, but contacting your city, contacting the chamber, your local chamber as well, contacting your township. A lot of people may not realize that the township that you live in, they also are getting dollars. They also want to help small businesses survive. And they are willing to come up with all different type of concepts, thinking outside of the box. One of the things that we're looking at doing, we as a chamber, we always have events and they've always been very successful. But this year we changed our plan and we ended up finding that having farmers market has been very, very successful for us, because farmers markets, a lot of them shut down. A lot of them went through drive-through service, and we were able to still maintain and have ours the normal way. And we had a lot of success. And now we're going into the winter time and we're looking at doing a winter fest. And it's just has worked out very well for us.
Yeah. And I mean, tell me a little more about the farmers market piece though, because that's a little bit of a disconnect for me. I didn't know farmers markets were I knew that they were struggling, but I'm just curious how that plays into all of this.
Well, it depends on where you are. So some farmers markets had to change their protocol because of COVID, meaning you can go to the farmers market, but you're in your car. And then the vendors are set just lined up, and they are the ones handing you the product out of the car. And it kind of, I think, was a disconnect for some people. They just didn't like it, but we were able to maintain ours because our director, Pam Miller, did such a great job in working with the health department. We were able to do our farmers market, and we actually added another day, new vendors, and now we're looking at doing a winter one. So just something different to think outside of. And let me tell you a little story too. One of the markets I went to, I saw these young guys and they have a product that they're selling. And I went up to them because I specialize in commercial banking and small business, as you know. And I went up to them and I said, have you guys put in for your PPP? They were like, no. I said, have you looked at any grants? They were like, no. I said, have you put in for any loans? And they were like, no, we didn't know. And it's just so important as a small business. If you haven't done those things, please do it. It's out there. Now the PPP has stopped at this time, but you never know. There may be another round. It's really important to pay attention to the news. If another round of that comes out, please put in for it.
Yeah.
Process.
What about, establishing a relationship with your banker, or how important, I mean, because you're giving your time and you're giving this, you do this to all of your clients.
Yes.
But how how important is that relationship?
Whatever bank you're currently at now, I would be picking up the phone and calling your banker and just say, what do you know that is available out there to me? Because one thing that I love is when my customers call me and they ask me specifically, do you know of something for sale? Do you know of something that I can go buy an apartment complex? And I may have a customer that is selling the apartment complex, right? And I can connect the two together. And I love that, having those type of connections. So it's really important that you call your banker, have, if nothing else, a 5-minute conversation of introducing yourself to them, telling them what you do for a living and what your business is. We want to know. That's our job. It's really important for me to understand what my clients do. So in case there's something out there where I can help them, I'd love to call them and let them know I have an opportunity for them. So
yeah, because I guess part of me was, I'm like, my banker should be calling me, but I'm sure you have thousands of clients, and you're like, I can't pick a phone call all of y'all. So we have to kind of take a pause and recognize that you do have a lot of customers that you have to touch base with, and that your banker isn't going to rebuff your approach, and they will probably welcome you taking the initiative to pick up the phone and call.
Absolutely. And you wish you did have enough time for every single one of them, but at some point you should be able to reach out to them at some point. If not, call them. I have people call me all the time, and I may or may not know who they are, but it starts that relationship, and I make notes and I keep records, and anything I can do for them, I'm happy to do at any time. So
yeah. So I want to pivot just a little bit from business finance to personal finance.
Okay.
So we're going into, we don't know. I mean, this is so unprecedented, and I'm so sick of using that word, but I'm on thesaurus it and find me another word. But but there's people. We continue to see the increase. I was hearing today about the increase in suicides, and we're going into a dark time. We'll also, and a lot of it has to do with no money, no food, no hope, no future, no peace, no joy, no all of those things. But at the core of it, people need to feel like their basic needs are being met. What, from a personal finance perspective, should people begin thinking about or continue to think about?
Sure. I mean, a lot of my clients, they're thinking about far into the future. I mean, at this time, I have a lot of customers looking at, like their estate, their assets, their housing, their rates. I mean, we have historical lows right now on mortgage rates. If you haven't refinanced, call your banker, find out what your rates are in your local area where you live. Because that can actually help you in terms of saving money and being able to maybe pay off your home early. And people still don't know about it. It's just I tell people, have you refinanced? That's the number one thing I would do. Um,
But what if I don't have what if I'm not even sure? Like maybe I got behind during the last 6 months to a year or I lost my job and maybe my credit rating isn't what it used to be. Are banks gonna take me seriously? What are your thoughts?
Absolutely. We'll take you serious. And if we're not able to do something for you, we'll give you advice as to what you can do to get your credit improved. When we pull your credit, we obviously have access to your credit report. And from there, we can give you some advice as to what you need to do in the near future. So, most banks, I think, require at least 12 months good payment credit history. And if not, you just got to work on that plan to get it done and get back
Yeah,
on.
yeah. When you see, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, as we're going into this time, you got personal finance, you got business finance, small business, yeah, I know you deal with major organizations as well. So a lot of money you see kind of coming through there and coming out. What advice or insight would you have for people going into the holiday season as we see, Christmas items being put on the shelves and
Right.
we're inundated with all these discounts. And I understand we want to keep the business world going, but I don't know what should we be paying attention to?
Well, I mean, I think it's important. Everybody wants to save money at this time, right? But yet you have these children and Santa's coming. You want to make sure they're taken care of. So one of the things that we offer, we have a credit card that's 0% interest for 20 months. That is something you should definitely
Oh,
taking advantage of. I mean, you can do balance transfers or what have you, and I can give more detailed information about that. But
uh-huh.
look at the credit card options that are out there for you, and just make sure if you decide to go that way, go to 0% way. That's my advice, and then just start buying now. Maybe one gift a month until that time.
Ah,
It's just, I think people are very cautious on their spending right now. So you don't, and there's a lot of deals. I mean, Amazon Day just happened a couple of days ago. So look at, just really shop. And oh, don't forget to do the comparison shopping because they will price match.
yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot more. I see that a lot more and more and more of businesses who are saying, okay, we want you here, price match. And what I also see is people are actually pulling out their phones and
Yep.
saying, look,
Yeah.
so you don't have to necessarily go home and clip it out of the paper or anything. Everything is so virtual and so digital now. It is easy. And don't forget, if the store isn't saying it, ask, do you price match? Because, I get this less expensive somewhere else, especially if that somewhere else could be right down the street and around the corner.
And support local. I can't stress that enough.
Mhm.
We have some
Yeah.
wonderful small businesses here in Powell, and just support local because they need the help. We're trying to help them stay afloat, and it's Christmas time, so put that on your list. Support local. That's my
Yeah.
advice.
Absolutely. So we're talking today. If you're just kind of tuning in, if you have questions, please type those in, and I'll make sure that I ask our finance expert here, Sabra Kershaw, the questions. But as we're thinking about personal as well as business, small businesses are rethinking their money, their resources, their strategies, and how it is when you're starting a small business, how difficult it is to acquire capital and then to hold on to it and try to build those reserves and those kinds of things. Any insights into the business model or the strategy that folks need to be taking? And then the other thing I'm one question at a time. Okay, let's do that one.
I totally understand. So one thing that I think a lot of people don't realize that's out there are micro lenders, people who do the grassroots of small businesses. So sometimes people may come to me, and I may not be able to work with the individual because they are so new. But I have great partnerships within the community of micro lenders, and there are companies that have started with the organizations that I work with, and say, for instance, let's say North Market. I don't know if I've taken you to that, Pam, when you've been here, but the North Market has what's called the North Star Cafe. I apologize.
Mm,
North Star Cafe. And they are one that started with the micro lender, and they have several locations right now, but they started small. and they are very successful at this point. So you just got to think outside of the box. I'm a firm believer, if it's something that you truly believe in and you're passionate about, there is a way to achieve it. You just got to think outside of the box. Sometimes it's not always cookie cutter, but you just got to keep going. So that's my advice.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know what? And that really kind of takes me into the question I was getting ready to piggyback on earlier, was the whole idea of a lot of people are out of work, and they're thinking about their next thing. So many have thought about becoming an entrepreneur and starting their own businesses. So I know you see a lot of that. What thoughts, what insights do you have?
So I have people that come to me every day, change of life, second chance of life, second act, if you want to call it. And yes, they do want to go into different parts. They've lost their job and they find themselves in this situation where, well, what are my talents? What are my passions? And let's just start with the farmer's market. Let's start there. There's this woman, particularly that I really like, that I met at one farmer's market. She's a florist, and she had the most beautiful flowers. So I invited her to the Powell Chamber, and I said, "Why don't you just come be part of the Powell Chamber?" And so from that, I know she's going to eventually end up in her own shop, because it's the next phase of her life, and it's time to do something different. But her flowers are just beautiful, and she has such a passion, very professionally presented. So my advice to these people who got to go to the next act of their life is to get that business plan written. It's so important. You got to know what's going on with your competition. You got to know how to price things. A business plan just helps you. It's like a book report. It just helps you understand what you are getting yourself in, and it allows you to create your vision, your mission statement, what the company's actually going to stand for. And the ones that are, like I said, the ones that are the most prepared are the ones that survive and thrive. So.
Yeah. And then I'm just kind of making a note here. So from a banking perspective, you are looking for, like, are you wanting to see that business plan, or are you just wanting to know that we know what's in it and what our plan is? If I come to you and I say, hey, I'm thinking about starting a business, you got some money saved, right? It's gotta be better than that, I'm sure. But what's your biggest pet peeve with folks coming to you asking for money?
I'm not allowed to say that, Pam. No, seriously. The more prepared, because let me tell you why I say that. It's because when you come to me and you tell me I like $100,000 loan, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing I'm gonna say to you is, how's your credit? The second thing I'm gonna say is, tell me about it. How long have you been? Do you been in this? Do you have a business plan? And I think, I guess I'll go back to the pet peeve. If you tell me I don't have time to do a business plan, that's not good, because it's your business. And my job is, once I take your application, once I take your business plan, my job is to send your information down to the underwriters, and all they see is black and white. So my job is to paint the picture. Okay. And I want to be able to say to my underwriters that if it's a business that I truly believe in, it's, this person, this is why I think they should have this loan, or my input is very important, because they don't know who is sitting in front of me. They don't know that they're connected in the community, or they give back, or they have a nonprofit connected to the business, or they don't, you don't know all those things. But if you create the business plan and you develop a good relationship with your banker, it really does help when it gets sent down in front of the people that don't know you, that are making the decisions for your loans. It's really, and people don't know that piece of it. So.
Wow. Well, they know now because you just told them.
I did.
Yeah. Right. And I know for me personally, it's so nice to be able to just, call and say, hey, what about this idea, this notion from a small business perspective, even now, having that personal board of directors or professional board of directors for accountability, financial, as well as just business growth? sustainability. But what are your thoughts about that? Because I know you serve on a lot of boards. You do a ton of board work, right?
I
So
do.
I just figured I would just toss that one in and see what you thought about that.
Sure. Every organization is different. Every company is different. So I can't say that, you should have a board or you should have a board. That really is going to be based on the person and the company. And I do serve on quite a few boards because I'm passionate about helping people grow. But what I will say is when you insert yourself or make yourself available to a board, I would be very, you got to make sure you're serving in the right capacity. So you
Mhm.
got to make sure the board is good and sound, whether it's small or whether it's large. It's really important that you're on a good board that is sound. And if there's any red flags, I do suggest that you just step away from it because you could get yourself into some trouble if so.
Yeah, yeah. What kind of red flags you interested in sharing?
Pam, you are so wrong.
Okay, fine.
Well, I think proper prepared financials is number one. If you go into a board meeting and you don't have financials, not good. That's like board 101, right? Um, and if you have to ask for the financials and continue to ask for them, yeah,
That's a
that
problem.
yeah, it's not a problem. And I'm really big on the structure of the board. Board meetings average from once a month to every quarter, once a year, every 6 months. It just depends on the board that you're part of. But it's about the structure of the board. The ones that I have found that don't follow the bylaws, that
Mhm.
don't govern based on the structure and the agenda of the board meeting, they tend to fall behind or they struggle because it doesn't matter how big or small. It really doesn't. It's about following the structure and abiding by the bylaws. That's why they're there. So those are red flags to me. If you're not doing that, I think you'll find yourself in some trouble. So
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
experience.
Yeah. And thank you for that. Because I think part of, when we start these businesses and there's so much, we want to make money and we want to get our brand out there and we want to do a lot of things. There are lots of things that people don't tell you about starting a business and running a business successfully. And I think one of the biggest things is the ability to pivot in the
Mhm.
middle of a pandemic, right? Oh, that's good. I'm gonna have to write that, pivot in the
Yeah.
middle of the pandemic. Somebody gonna write that before I do that. I'm giving that's a freebie. But but you gotta be able to shift, right? You gotta be able to just keep one foot planted and just kind of look to see where your options are. And I think a lot of business owners are still at this one trick pony. I can only do one thing. And I think one of the things that this pandemic has taught us and is teaching us is, like, for example, the restaurants, there were some restaurants that didn't have, they had carry out, but they didn't have, delivery service and stuff. And so they shut down so they could get it together and hopes that their business will come in. Then now they're starting to open and they get it. But having that business forecast and recognizing that anything can happen, how equipped is your organization to be able to pivot, still stay in business, but do something that's different that still reaches your customers. And I think that's an incredibly important lesson that we're learning in this. And those that don't, like you said, just don't survive.
Yeah, one particular person I know, she serves on the board and she has a business in the downtown Powell area. And when the COVID hit, people weren't coming in, but she decided to deliver. So she do a lot of Facebook lives and she go around her shop and show you. And that's the important piece. You got to show people what it is they're getting, whether it's food or whatever. Do a Facebook live, show your product so people can see it. And then when people ordered it, she was in her car delivering it. So and she's having the best year she's ever had. So because of that, so it's just really
Wow.
up to her for thinking outside of the box. Absolutely. So,
Yeah. And I think those are things that the financial industry is looking for. How are you being creative? And I think these are questions that I'm guessing you're going to probably be asking for
absolutely.
people who are starting businesses and thinking about, stepping out there. what did you do in this last, go
Mhm.
round, this last 6 to 8 months? But, if this continues,
Mhm.
what's your plan for survival?
Well,
What are some creative things that you could be doing now to prepare you for what looks like that we're going to be here for a little while?
that's a great point that you say, because one thing as a commercial lender, I have to have COVID-19 talks. And when I call my customers and I have a business loan in and system for them, I'm like, I have to have the COVID talk. And they're like, well, what do you want to know? Like, what? I said, well, just take a deep breath, because the
Mhm.
underwriter wants to know,
Yeah.
how are you surviving this? What changes are you making? What things are you doing to make sure that you're surviving? So that is perfect what you just said, Pam. The underwriters of the world they have to know, how are you going to get through this?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, absolutely. And as we begin to think about that, just, well, we all have we don't all have personal underwriters, but I wish we did. I wish I had somebody could underwrite all the stuff I'm doing. But I think it's important. I want to kind of now shift back. I know I'm kind of going back and forth a little bit, back into
sure.
personal finance,
Mhm.
and sort of thinking through this this next phase of things, and any additional insights that have popped up for you, to the folks that are watching, because we're kind of talking, if you're just tuning in, we are talking about banking, business success, but also personal finance as well, with the wonderful and awesome Kate Sabra Kershaw, who's the
Mhm.
vice president at West Banco, but also president of the Powell Chamber in Ohio. And one of the things that, we joke about, but we probably shouldn't, is the amount of toilet paper that's leaving the store shelves. And
Mhm.
as we go into the winter months,
Sure.
and dealing with that, are there any creative things that you're seeing from a personal finance perspective, um,
Hmm.
are doing?
How people are going to survive what's coming ahead, if you want to say.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
like I said, other than getting your things, personal things in order, meaning from, if you have an estate that you want to get in order, or your power of attorneys, if you were to get sick, um, getting those
Mhm.
in order is what's a lot of people are looking at this time, from my perspective. Um,
Yeah.
and then in terms of, like I said, go back to the rates of the economy,
Mhm.
historical lows. You just can't ask for a lower rate. I've been in banking 28 years, and I've never seen rates like this on the mortgage side. So
Wow. So even if your credit isn't all that great, it doesn't hurt to try,
it does not.
and lower that mortgage rate.
Absolutely.
You
Yep.
know, I've been eyeballing a nice little island place somewhere, but I better take care of mortgage number one before I go try to adopt more, get mortgage number two. But what's so important is, even right now, paying attention to, where we are personally, in our personal finances. If we can knock off some of that debt while we have a little bit of money, for those who have a little bit of savings left, it just takes the worry off of
Right.
your shoulders about what tomorrow may or may not hold. I'm really optimistic that we're going to begin to make the important shifts.
Mhm.
But I also recognize that this isn't gonna. There's no short term fix. This is like, we need long term
Right.
decision making. And even my husband is like, we're gonna cut back on the cable, and I'm like, what? What are you talking about? But
Those
little things.
add up. So it's
Yes.
really contacting your financial advisor. There's a difference between what I do and
Yes.
what financial advisor does. So if you have any investments or things of that nature, give them a call. If you haven't talked to them, or you don't know who they are, the information should be on the statement that comes every quarter, and you just give them a call, and just talk to them about what's available out there. What should I be doing? And they'll be happy to give you that advice.
Yeah, you're right. I'm so glad you said that, because I think sometimes, and us who are friends with Sabra Kershaw, we try to tap into her as banker and personal finance advisor, and all of those other things. And that's unfair, and I know that you do the best that you can. And then you get us into that personal chokehold,
Yeah.
and remind us that you are not a financial advisor.
And I do You're absolutely right, Pam. I do get that. People ask me questions, and I'm like, look, I have partners, wonderful partners in our trust department. We have a great trust department. We have a great private banking department, investments. So they take really great care of my clients, and I do my part and what I'm supposed to do, but I let the other experts do what they're supposed to do too.
Well, which leads me to really one of my final questions, and then I'll see what other questions you have, or if other people are out there and they want to ask questions. What is the best way to leverage your banking relationship? I know that there are other, it's not just your banker, but what else? What else can you offer from a bank?
Well, I always tell people, I just had this conversation with a customer, that I'm bringing on board. I always say, start with me, and then I will help you get through the process of everything and connect you to the right person. So, but that's the best way it's really setting down. I think a great question I ask my customers on the business side, I always say, what keeps you up at night? Everybody has something that keeps them up at night, whether it's good or bad, right?
Yep.
And the other thing is, on the personal side, is just tell me your short-term goals and your long-term goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 to 10 years? And you will learn a lot of information just by asking those type of questions. And then that helps you kind of piece together a little plan of who they should be connected to.
Yeah. And it gives you information on how you can connect them. So
Right.
if your banker isn't asking some questions, it makes it difficult for them to know how to help you. If all they want to do is get you in, get your money, and get you out, that's probably not the best relationship for
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Any tips? And then I keep saying I'm gonna ask you one last question, but what tips do you have on really establishing a relationship with your
Sure.
banker?
Yeah, that I will tell you, that is the number one reason for my success in banking, is because it's about the rapport. It's not about selling a product. It is not about, what can I give this? What can I do for this, or give this product away to a customer? It's about the relationship.
Mhm.
I like to know the personal side. How many children you have? Did you grow up in Ohio? I have found and heard the best stories about people and their lives and what they do. And I've learned a lot, and I've enjoyed getting to know my customers over the last 28 years, and they will follow you. I mean, they'll find you because they know when I call or when we connect, I genuinely care about what's going on in their life. So it's really important. There's a lot of us out there that are like that. So it's just finding the right one.
You know what's so funny you say that, because I think sometimes people think they have to have a business in order to have a relationship with their banker.
No.
That is so not true. You need to have a bank account, yes.
Yeah.
But having a relationship with a banker can open up so many doors just through, conversation. I often think about my banker and banking relationship like I do my pharmacist. It's the difference between me dropping off a thing and paying for it or not. But there's another a difference in having a relationship with my pharmacist, and he or she says, "Oh, Miss Green, there's a coupon for this. I'm gonna use this coupon for you." And
Right.
I'm standing there chatting it up with her and having a conversation. I mean, it's the niceties, it's the relationship, it's how's your mom, how's everybody doing. I mean, that's the kind of relationships. Those are the kind of relationships that actually lead to the opportunity to go through other doors. Now, it doesn't mean that I can't provide that if we don't have a relationship. It just means you're moving too fast, and there's no time for us to build and for me to think, really consider you sitting in front of me and your business or your personal financial needs, how I might be able to help you. So don't be in such a hurry when you go in the bank. Spend some time periodically just talking to your banker, get on their schedule. Now you can't just walk in. You can just go online and just say, "Hey, I just want to catch up. Here's what's happening." Even if you feel like you're going to lose your job, what are some things that I could do to safeguard my assets, safeguard my business, safeguard my personal money, my $200 I got in the bank account? What can I do from that perspective? And I think those are just overlooked opportunities of relationship building that can just open up the door in so many ways, so many ways.
Yeah, if you know that you're going to be furloughed, or if you know you're going to be coming back to work, let your banker know. And if there's any opportunities where you need to do some lending or what have you, just give us a heads up that this is happening. And if there's anything we can do with helping you with deferments or what have you, just we'll be happy to help. And I have gotten those type of calls. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Sabra, any final words that you have for these lovely folks out here that are watching?
No, I mean, I would just say the main thing is just connect with your banker. If you haven't or don't know who they are, give them a call and just ask them if there's anything out there that they know of. Because just because I know some things, there could be bankers that know more. So you just never know. And just be open and honest about your situation because we have heard it all. And we will help in any way we can.
I know, right? You're
Yeah.
right. And so the key takeaway is, pick up the phone, get on your banker's calendar, whether you have a business or not. You do not have to have a business. This is not just about business talk. This is about relationship.
Yes.
And I tell people this all the time when they call me and they say, Pam, I'm thinking about starting a business or I'm struggling in my business. What are you doing? How are you promoting? I don't have endless marketing dollars. What I have are relationships, and people do business with and they refer people they know, they like, and they trust. And if you don't have a relationship, a trusting relationship with your banker, then that says a lot about your ability to perhaps expand your business, grow your business, and ensure that your business is financially sustainable and stable. So Sabra, thank you for being on. I know you're busy. You got a lot of people out that door.
It's been awesome. Thank you, Pam.
All right, listen, I got to have you back because there's some other stuff that we need to talk about that you just touched the iceberg, tip of the iceberg on from a business perspective and those boards. Oh my word. And we talk about advancing to the C-suite. Sabra's all up in it and got stories to tell, although she probably won't be able to tell them on live. But I'm gonna try to see if I give her a running chance, she may be able to, protect the innocent and give me some hypothetical experiences that I know she's had. But it is just such a pleasure to have you. I know how busy you are, and I just so appreciate your time.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.